Cool. There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. I am excited that you've decided to join us today, this evening for me, whatever time of day it is for you guys. I'm thrilled about this because a dear friend of mine who's been instrumental in some of my more recent learnings and opening my eyes, because it's one of the things I think about being an entrepreneur is you've got to constantly be growing, bettering yourself, getting coaching and mentorship. And Carson and I happen to be in a mastermind group together and have known each other now for, I guess, going on a couple of years, maybe a little bit longer. Don't know exactly when we first met, but Carson is a really great guy. He's the founder of Elevated Academy. He's a transformative coaching visionary with over 3,500 hours of global client impact. That's amazing. He's got a master's in negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building. He's worked with leaders at Kaiser, San Diego County, UCSD, SDSU, and even contributed curriculum for the Pentagon. He's a recipient of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and holds over 16 coaching certifications. What's really amazing is that Carson blends conscious, unconscious, and spiritual practices to create lasting, profound change for those seeking deep transformation. And if you have been in the industry at any amount of time, following me, following some other folks potentially like Carson as well, is you've probably developed an understanding, or at least you've heard us talk about it, that 95% of your success in business, maybe more, of course, I don't know that they've ever done anything to calculate it totally, but it's all in the mind. It's all up here. It's not about knowing more or learning this or that. It's often about getting out of your own way and overcoming your own blocks that are keeping you from that success. And Carson is a master at it. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, brother. Take it away, Carson Cooper.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm obsessed with the brain. So that's all the coaching certifications. I couldn't stop because I want to know, how do we, one, shift ourselves and stop being the bottleneck in our own business? And then how do we able to shift our clients and coach them into a transformation where they actually become our ideal client? So thank you, Michael, for having me. Michael and I are putting this on so that because we believe in transforming the world. And if you're here, it's probably because you want to make a bigger impact on the world. And so we've started realizing that a lot of coaches, entrepreneurs, CEOs want to transform their own mindset, but also want to transform others. And so Michael and I have been kind of seeing each other speak for the last 2 years now. And then for the last 4 months, we've been in different masterminds to really look at how can we integrate the Elevate Coaching Academy plus the Infinite Leads to be able to reach more people, and so that you all can reach more people. Okay, how's that sound? So thank you so much, Michael, for putting this on together with me. So I want to support you in stopping being overlooked. And so that you can book out more clients. Okay. And so what we're going to talk about today is a lot of people come to me and they ask, why is their business failing? And so that could either be they're not making any money, they hit their first 6 figures and can't scale, or I've supported people that are at the 750, 800,000. It's like, why can't I get over that 7-figure mark? And so it all comes down to the it factor method. And so today we're going to be talking about the subconscious messaging that actually attracts your ideal clients, the energetic leadership where you stand out in your niche. And then we're going to be talking about the 7-figure business secrets to all messaging. So messaging, whether you are implementing your first lead magnet with Infinite Leads, messaging where you are doing a speaker or webinar funnel, maybe you are just wanting to be out on social media, YouTube, podcasting, whoop, Michael again, the podcasting, all the way up to, are you ready to put on 3-day events, group coaching, or trainings and certifications where you can truly sell high ticket items. And so I have been a coach since 2015, coached thousands of people through trauma-informed coaching practices and somatic releases. And what I've realized in the sales aspect is that we can integrate some of these key coaching principles in landing pages, in webinars, in our talks, in order to coach people to the sale. Now, this process is not actually trying to sell your stuff. Because in about 2010, the marketing has changed. Okay, so the old way was for you to your product or service was the solution. And it was a lot of like, I have a process that works, and it was a lot of selling information. And if you had information to sell, people bought it. But now, with the personal development and the coaching industry being over $1 billion industry, there is everyone out there saying that they have the thing that works. And so, how do we stand out in the crowd and we stop throwing money at different how-tos? Oh my God, I've spent over $300,000 on Facebook ads. I've spent over $100,000 on marketing, copywriters, different things like that. And what I've realized is that I was hoping for them to come to me and tell me, what is my voice? What do I need to say in order to scale with money? And it didn't until I stopped and was like, let me be the leader of my own messaging. Let me stop throwing money at this because that didn't work. And then also I was like, oh, if I just get in front of more people, this will work, right? It's like I have a good product, and I was a really good one-on-one salesperson for the company before I started my own business. I sold $10,000 and $25,000 programs. And when I started my own business, I was good at one-on-one sales, but the skills didn't transfer to group sales and written sales. So what I'm going to talk about today is I went out and got a coaching PhD, and now we're going to see how do we implement that brain stuff to turn on people to help them know that they can be your ideal client. So again, you're not selling them on your stuff, you're selling them on being the person that no longer wants to stay where they're at, being the person that is going to want to get the problem that you solve with your product, service, or coaching. So I'd love everybody to type in, do you sell a product? Do you sell a service? Or do you sell some type of coaching? Okay. So I've worked with people at State Farm, Land Rover. I've worked with real estate agents. I've worked with financial people. I've also worked with health coaches, business coaches, trauma-informed coaches, spiritual coaches. And then I've helped with lots of different kind of CEOs, nonprofits, and agencies, and all of like that. And this process can work. So go ahead and type in, are you a coach, service provider? So we have coaching, we have consulting, we have all three. Beautiful. So today is going to be a workshop style. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 key takeaways that you can then go and rewatch the recording and probably pause it and actually do the activities. And today there's going to be a little bit of coaching. I'll pick 1 or 2 people to take you through the process. Does that sound good? So we're going to be typing in, we're going to be writing out, and then also, the things that I give you can work for this. Now, the it factor. What is the it factor? Okay, so I believe in really doing if we are to be a movement maker, when my ideal clients want to create a movement, they don't want to just be a coach, just be a CEO. They don't want to just help 3 or 30 people or even 300 people. My ideal client is a movement maker. And what do I mean by that? It's somebody that wants to create a lasting impact and have a group of people motivated to take action. Okay, so who here would like to be able to actually shift and change the world and impact with a greater level? And I was so sick of doing talks where people were excited and they do standing ovation, but then why aren't they pulling out the credit card and taking the action that is going to be different? Okay, so there's a difference between it being inspiring and empowering, and then people actually pulling out the credit card saying, this is going to change my life. I believe in this. Okay. And the other piece of this foundation of the it factor is, what if through your messaging, so that's a talk, a landing page, emails, what if before you even got to the offer, people knew that you were the right person for them? People knew that it would work for them. They believed in it, and they made the decision that you were the best. I call it the leader across the void, the best leader across their void. And then when you got to the offer, their only decision was, do I pull out the credit card or not? That takes off so much pressure from the offer as well, because if you are able to create this subconscious messaging, the energy leadership, plus the 7-figure messaging, and I call it the art and science of messaging, which is the it factor, so that you put all of this in so that when you make the offer, the only decision they're doing is, do I pull out my credit card or not? Okay. So the it factor is charisma, uniqueness. It is your magnetism. It's your captivating. And we're going to look at how do we bring our energy to the stage, to the messaging, to emails, to social media before we even write it. What energy, what emotional connection are we even bringing before we even start saying our messaging? So imagine, those people that you walk into a room and they just lift up the room amazingly. And then those people that walk into a room and they're like an energy vampire and they suck all the energy out of the room. Okay. So that's the type of energetic connection is, can you walk out on a stage and push that energy and have the audience know the energy that you're going to bring before you even talk? And then what if I asked you before you go on to stage, write down 50, even 20 things that you want the audience to perceive you as. And then after your talk, I asked the audience the same thing and they wrote down the exact same 20 words. That's when you know you have alignment and congruence with this it factor, where you're not just making 5 figures or even breaking 6 figures, you're breaking multiple 6 and 7 figures. So that's the charisma, the uniqueness that I'm talking about. Then it factor means leader. Okay. So a leader is somebody that is a coach, whether you're an actual coach or not, that's creating transformation that somebody wants to follow. It's a CEO, and it is somebody that people can see themselves in. So how do you position yourself as a leader so that you can connect with your ideal clients? The next thing, an it factor leader and a movement maker, you gotta love systems, baby. So systems is all the tech, systems is all your sales funnels, and systems is automation. If you want your time and money back, you gotta love systems and you gotta learn how to put that subconscious messaging in your systems, and you gotta learn to lead. So you don't just give it away to marketers or copywriters. It's how do you lead them to tell you this is what works and this is what will sell for my ideal client, so that they can do their genius, but you're leading them. Okay. And then the last thing is all about healthy confidence. So it factor is about that healthy confidence. It's about being in your creativity. So it factor is about creating a space where you feel creative, not waiting for you to be creative. Okay. It's that healthy confidence. And then it's also connecting to our intuition. Okay. So, like I said, marketing is changing from being in our head, okay, and selling what we think people need to hear or what they think they need to hear. And it's no longer selling thinking, it's selling transformation. So, how, through your messaging, can you coach them and lead them to a transformation to shift their identity, even in your messaging, before they even buy something with you? Okay. So, I have done that. I had a lawyer that was like, you're passionate, you're exciting, you're like, your energy's out there. He's like, but I don't think I can do that. And he's like, I'm just going to pay for your program and I'm going to prove to you that it doesn't work and that a lawyer can't do it. And so it was so funny because I was like, okay, so I coached him for a couple months and he's like, nothing's working in business. He had done 300 talks for the bar association and only made one $5,000 sale. So everybody was clapping and it was amazing, but they didn't buy. So why? Why did they love him, but they didn't buy? So I started asking him about his messaging. And he's like, burnout, burnout, burnout. Lawyers are burnt out. And I said, do you mind if I, coach you around some of your subconscious stuff? Can I ask you a couple questions? Sure. I don't think you'll get anything. Okay, great. So I realized that, so he was actually about with his third wife, he's about to get divorced. He hadn't talked to his son in 5 years. 5 years, they were addicted, and he used to be an addict, and his dad was an addict, so generational trauma there. And he had kind of went from a lawyer to being super spiritual, and then he had gave millions of dollars to this guru that stole all of it. And so he went back to being a lawyer and was like, I just need to be a good lawyer and whatever. And then he was burnt out. So through the coaching process, um, we cleaned up his own connection to his addiction, which cleaned up his own relationships with his son and his dad and his wife. And he started realizing that he wanted to integrate and up level his identity, that the lawyer identity served him for a purpose, but he was holding on to what he had to be versus what he wanted to be. And he actually ended up creating a spiritual lawyer certification for lawyers, and combining his two. And now he's putting on documentaries teaching people about their brain. And he had near-death experiences. And why in a near-death experience does somebody want to change their life after? And how can we take what shifts actually happen neurologically in the brain and teach that to people so they don't have to have a near-death experience? So here would like to make change in their life, massive change and growth without a near-death experience. Okay. So it's interesting because now he's putting on documentaries that are on Netflix and all of that stuff. And he said it was because of one, understanding where he was the bottleneck, and then taking that subconscious messaging and putting it into his messaging to where now people are buying his movies, buying coaching. He has a team of coaches and all of this different stuff. Okay. So that is what the it factor is. Now, I loved this stuff. And I only made $2,000 my first year of business, okay, which was a far cry from the $1 million that I wanted to make when I was 30. And so I started recognizing as I launched my business, I was also in my master's degree. And my first couple of years, my mom had cancer, my dad had open heart surgery, and I was outed as gay. And I came home with written in chalk, there was dicks and fags all over written in chalk in my driveway. And here I was trying to step out and be a leader in the coaching industry. And I felt like I didn't belong. I didn't have a voice. I couldn't be a leader. Nobody was going to listen to me. And I felt like my mom having cancer was like, I didn't trust God anymore. My dad having open heart surgery, I was like my rock, this strength, watching him lay there with the tube down his throat. And it reflected the weakness inside of me. And I started realizing how my external events were showing me my internal blocks. And I had been hiding and suppressing those for so long and just thinking, my life isn't as bad as everybody else's. This stuff really isn't impacting me. When I took a closer look and then integrated with this it factor method into my business, I was able to, in a couple months, I was able to replace my income. In 6 months, I was able to double it. In 8 months, I was able to triple my income with this process I'm going to talk about today. And now I train people to do messaging. I release their kind of trauma-informed things and help them scale their businesses and do what they love. Because what I felt like I was doing all the right things, my master's degree. I was working at I was working at the National Conflict Resolution Center, teaching around the world and only making $32,000 a year, right? And then I implement this stuff, and I actually hit $1 million a month after I turned 30. Okay, so that was 4 years ago, and it was freaking amazing. Okay, so I say that to say I again am obsessed with this stuff, and wherever you're at on your journey, whether you're at that 5-figure, that 6-figure, or you want to break that 7-figure and go multiple 6 and 7 figures, this will work for you. Okay. Now, like I said, this is going to be a workshop experience. I'm going to just put a water hose on you and get into the how-tos in a second. And Michael and I would love to also, if this resonates with you, invite you to the It Factor, a 3-day event, less than $100. And we want to create the next movement makers in the industry. Okay. So I'm going to lay it out. You can absolutely use this stuff. And then if you feel called to, I'd love to invite you to that as well at the end. Okay. All right. So let's dive into this secret sauce of the it factor, which is that subconscious messaging. It is the energetic leadership, and it is the 7-figure messaging process. Okay. All right. So we have the subconscious messaging. So before we dive into the subconscious messaging, let's look at how did the market get to where it is today, where our copy is either landing or not landing. Okay. And so we all want to get results for people. Okay. And are the results that you are getting for people, are those kind of just the benefits and features of your program. So a lot of coaches, as I go through and look at their landing pages, their talks, their different things like that, the results are actually the benefits and features of the program, or there's some result that they have gotten themselves or somebody else. And it is very much like I focused. And so we want to actually get tangible results that are connected to what the client wants and takes them from one identity that's no longer serving them to an identity where they become that person that no longer has the problem. Okay. So I'm going to teach you how to say the results through this process. Then we have the solution. Okay. So you have a solution that you market that then gets them the results. The old way of marketing is that this solution is actually your product. Okay, so it's your product, your process, your service that gets them these results. And that is very much the old way of marketing, of like, oh, my solution is the product versus your solution being the vehicle. And the solution is actually emotionally connected them decision that like they believe that this is the solution to their problem that are going to get them this results. So I'm going to help you make that subtle shift from the solution being your product or service to the solution being them focused. Okay. Then we have the problem. Okay. So again, the old way of marketing is very much of you pick a problem that they have or that you've helped other people with or even yourself. And it's very much like, I focus, I can do this, things like that. You can kind of notice those people in the marketing where it's a lot about what they can do for people. Okay, where we want to switch to a much more them model, where I call it like a global chunked up problem that is emotionally connected to what they want. Now, in marketing, there is about 10% of people that actually know their problem that if they were to shift it can actually change their life and get them their goal. Okay. And so when you're speaking, if you have even a really good big problem, as I call it, and a really big solution, and you believe that you can get them the results, you're still only getting 10 to 20%. Because what if the problem is unconscious to them and they have a presenting problem that is like, I need to fix this, but they have a more unconscious or subconscious problem that you actually can attack with your product and service. So I'm going to teach you how to not only get to the like presenting problem, but how to get down to the root cause subconscious problems that people are willing to pay money for. So you can write this down, is if you solve a problem or your product or service solves a problem that they've had for over 10 to 15 years, they're willing to buy faster and they're willing to pay more money for it. So 10 to 15 years. Well, what if I'm helping somebody scale a business and they've only wanted a business for the last couple of years? Or what if they're just starting in their business? How do I connect to that problem, right? And so what I ask people is like, what does that business represent to them? If the business goes well, what will that mean to them? Who will they be when the business goes well? If the business doesn't go well, what will that represent to them? What will that mean to them? What's important about that business? And what you'll find by asking these questions, and I'm going to give you a structure to implement in a moment, is that they start realizing that they don't just want this now. The thing that you're giving them will help them achieve something they've wanted longer than 10 to 15 years. And that is when, again, people are willing to, they'll buy faster. Wouldn't that be fun? And they're willing to pay more money. Okay. So that is what this framework does. Now, like I said, only 10 to 20% of the people actually know their problem, even if you make it subconscious. So we need to get to symptoms. What are the symptoms of those problems that they have? Because when you speak to the symptoms, they might not know the problem because it's unconscious. But if you speak to the symptoms, then you can link the symptoms to the problem, and then they will buy into the solution and the results. Okay. And so many people get focused so much on this that they actually forget that this is where you actually can attract people. And then one step more is the subconscious messaging. Okay. So there is a process for the subconscious messaging. And before we dive into that, I want to support you with the big problem and the big solution. Okay. So we have the big problem. I'd love for somebody to type in, what is the problem that you solve? Actually, I would like everybody to type in, and I'll coach one person, is what is the big problem that you solve? Okay. What is the problem that you solve with your product or service, your consulting, your mentoring, your coaching? Business building and lead generation. Awesome. Yep. What's the problem that you solve? Mom's feeling overwhelmed and under-resourced. Yep. See a couple more people type in. So I'm going to actually give a question to ask to basically, so finding ways to bring AI into existing business systems and processes. Beautiful. So what I suggest is a lot of our problems that we solve are very much from the head. And it's descriptors that we think people need to hear in order to buy. Yet it's oftentimes it's not emotionally connected, and a wide variety of people. Although, have you ever met those people where you're like, I could solve their problem, but they don't think that your product can solve their problem, or they don't think it's the wrong time, right? Or I need to do a whole bunch of other stuff before XYZ. Okay, so that's what we want to chunk out of the low chunk, like the problems that they think in their head, and we want to chunk it up more to emotionally connected, energetic problems. So how do you do that? You ask this question: how is that a problem? Okay, so you're actually going to ask this 5 to 7 times. And this is going to shift the energy of your messaging, and it's also going to attract way more people. So I want to do an example. Ingrid, do you mind if I use your example? Do you mind, since so do you want to pop off and I can ask you some questions? Awesome, I love it.
Sure.
Awesome. I love it. So finding ways to bring AI into existing businesses and process. Love it. I am an AI geek and nerd, and I know Michael is, so this is perfect. So how is that a problem that people don't integrate it into their systems?
If they don't, they will eventually fall behind, and they're not keeping up with competition. They're running harder than they need to, putting in extra work.
So if they fall behind, they're not beating their competition. How is that a problem?
They're leaving money on the table, and they're not gaining the profits that they should, I suppose, or the revenue.
Yeah, if they're leaving money on the table and not getting the profits, how's that a problem?
Well, why work harder for less?
Yep. Okay, beautiful. So in this example, and then now let's go through, and I'm going to kind of keep it a secret of what I think the big problem is. So now let's go to your big solution. So what is the solution to that problem, the not integrating AI? What is the solution?
The solution is to figure out how to best integrate AI.
Great. So do you have like an I help statement that you've worked on, like kind of like an elevator pitch? Do you mind saying that to me?
Yeah. Geez, I haven't said it for a bit. What would it be? I help small, medium businesses figure out where best to integrate AI into their existing processes and systems to save money, gain money, save time.
Beautiful. So save money. So right now it's save money and time. The solution is integrate AI. And then the problem is that they're not.
Cut through the overwhelm, I guess, should be in there somewhere. Yeah. Help them cut through the overwhelm.
Great. So this is a perfect example. Thank you for being our teacher today, of your solution being your product or service, which is the AI. And so the thing is if people don't know that AI can actually solve their problem of overwhelm, or they don't believe it, then it's kind of just, I'm not an AI person, they're not going to listen, right? They're in a discount. So Now, with the big solution is the question that we're going to ask is what's important about that? Okay, so what's important about that? And you're going to ask that 5 to 7 times. So integrating AI into their business, what's important about that?
You can save time and gain money.
Beautiful. And what's important about saving time and money?
Better quality of life.
And what's important about quality of life?
More time with loved ones or more time to pursue our passions. Happiness overall.
Beautiful. So the big problem could be something like this. So, and this is the structure that I put it in, is so many people ask me, why am I leaving money on the table? It's like, I'm not getting the profits that I want. And through thousands of hours of working with people, I've realized it's all about increasing your quality of life and your passions. And the exact way that I do that is creating a system in your business that basically runs itself so you can focus on your passion and quality. I'm going to talk about 3 ways to implement AI in your business. So what that does is it gets them on an emotional chunked up level first. They say, so why am I leaving so much money on the table? I'm not making the profit. That means 90 to 95% of the room is raising their hand. Okay, and saying yes. Then you're saying, and through the thousands of hours of working with so many clients, you edify yourself. And then you say, and it really is all about actually not focusing on your business, ladies and gentlemen. It's about connecting your quality in life and passion so that you have the business you want, but you also have the life that you want. So I'm going to teach you how to put systems in your business to go from leaving money on the table to that quality of life and living in your passion. And I'm going to share 3 ways to do that today with AI to get your time and money back. And really, so this is an objection overcome, which I'll teach you in a second. And really, it's not necessarily about being overwhelmed. You are only overwhelmed because you don't have the tool yet to help you do things quicker and faster and more efficient. So with just this little big problem, big solution, I have created a 15-second talk, a 1-minute talk, a 2-minute talk. And with a 2-minute talk in front of the room doing this piece, I made my first $2,500 coaching sale because people wanted to come up and talk to me. Then when I did a 10-minute talk using this, I made my first $15,000 sale because, again, are we going from I help X, Y, and Z do X, Y, and Z? You know, at networking events, people's brains just go numb and they like don't even listen, right? Because everybody's saying the same thing. When you do this big problem, big solution process, it calls people out and then people want to come talk to you. Okay, so that is the first part to this messaging. Okay, so we have number 1, take your big problem, and then how is that a problem 5 to 7 times? Then we have the big solution. What's important about that 5 to 7 times is the second one. And then the 3, so what are the symptoms to this problem? Okay, so what are the symptoms to the big problem? So now imagine taking your big problem, your big solution, the symptoms, and putting it in stage talks and putting it in your social media and your webinars and your landing pages. And it's coaching people to the sale. It's coaching people to the sale. And now people that like, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, you're overcoming that by helping them see the bigger picture. Okay. Now I'm going to pick on Michael for a second. Okay. So we did a 90-minute message or a 30-minute messaging talk. And we actually redid this for his process. Okay. And so the results that he gets people is so let me start with the problem. So the problem is people don't have enough leads. Okay, that's what he had told me. And the solution is the infinite lead software that helps people do gift giveaways and build leads. And the results is a bigger list that they can leverage. Okay, so that's what he came to me with. And so I said, let's look at the big problem, the big solution, and let's chunk it up. And I started asking him the difference of people that are starting it and that don't even understand that they need to have a leads list. And then what's the difference when somebody understands that if they build a big list, then they can integrate JV partnerships, affiliates, they can do their own launches, they can do all of these different stuff. I said, what's the difference? And he said, well, a rookie person they're not being that leader that they really want to be. Okay. And they're kind of stuck in not actually being that leader. And then on the other side, he said, but then there's these Hall of Famers that they understand all the different ways that they can implement this stuff, and they understand how to be a leader. And so we actually looked at his talk for Infinite Leads, and we created the big problem, the big solution to create an identity shift in his clients of, am I going to be this rookie marketer or this rookie person that doesn't know what a list is and that doesn't know how to integrate the systems and things like this? And how can we create you to be that Hall of Famer? And who doesn't want to be a Hall of Famer? So do you see how there's this emotional connection? There's this bridge that now he's selling people on the transformation from rookie to Hall of Famer. And his product or service is just the vehicle. It's no longer focused on him. It's focused on creating a movement of people. Can you see how a Hall of Famer is a movement that people are like, I deserve that in my business, versus just growing my list, right? There's no movement. Like people might think they want it, but it's a small percentage of people. Okay. So that is how you transform this. Okay. And if you want to go deeper in this, at It Factor, we spend, it's a 3-day event. We spend all day on just figuring out your big problem and your big solution, if that is of interest to you. Okay. All right. So I've been saying this subconscious messaging thing. What is this subconscious messaging? Okay. I'm going to give you the how-tos before I even say it. Okay. Okay. So before I even teach you how to do this for yourself and your clients, number one, this is the activity to leave you with, is you're going to do 5 low peak moments. Okay. So with what I teach you, you're gonna do 5 low peak moments. So that means you lost your job, you lost money, you did a bad investment, you lost a relationship, you didn't hit a goal. 5 low peak moments in your life. They can be the big ones. Okay. My mom had cancer. My dad had open heart surgery, and I was outed as gay. Also, it could be my first year in business. One of my first businesses, I did 9 webinars, y'all, 9 webinars, 100 people on each, and didn't sell a damn thing. Okay. And it was because I was taught, give value, give people lots of information. And then I literally had people being like, oh my gosh, after that 2-day virtual retreat, my trauma's gone. My trauma's completely gone. I don't even need, and I'm like, oh, my group coaching and my one-on-one coaching can help you. Oh no, it's good. I don't need you anymore. And I'm like, that was only $37. And so it's because we give so much value, but then they don't have a reason to pull out their credit card. Okay. So anyways, that was a low peak moment for me in my business. Now I learned all of this stuff and then implemented it to where I now have consistent 6-figure launches and 7-figure years. Okay. So now you're going to do 5 high peak moments. Okay, so you're going to do this process. I'm going to teach you this elusive process of subconscious messaging, and you're going to pick 5 high peak moments. So this is a time you hit a goal, you had your first child, maybe you started your business, you got in a relationship, you got a certificate or award, or you got a promotion, whatever it is. Okay, and it doesn't have to be connected to what you're doing now. It could be anything in your life. Okay. and you're gonna do the 5 peak moments. And then you're gonna do this process, okay? And then you're gonna do it low peak for your clients, and you're gonna do the high peak for your clients, okay? And I'll share with I'll show you with what that means, okay? So now we have our neurological boundaries. It's our mindset. It's our what creates our identity to either create the life that we want, or is this neurological boundary actually keeping us from the life that we want? Okay. And so this is the box that you keep yourself in from doing that thing that you know you need to do in your business, but you're not. Okay. It's like, but all of this worked to get to 6 figures. I worked with this woman. She had 7-figure years, and she started realizing, she's like, but now I can barely get past like 6 or 800,000. And she didn't understand why. And so we did this subconscious messaging process first on herself, then her business. And she started realizing that during COVID, she was a single mom. She launched her business. It was going really well. She felt really powerful. She was doing 7 figures, but then it felt hard. And she was mad that she was a single mom, mad that she felt like she had to do it alone. And it came from like 4 really good years to the last 2 years of not really having the money she wanted. And so I started asking her, what's your definition of a single mom? What does that represent to you? And she started realizing that she's like, I can't even lead my daughter correctly. How am I supposed to lead others? And over time, her definition and her connection to leadership started fading away. And that also was apparent in her businesses. And her messaging was great, but she was changing and she wasn't changing her messaging. And so after the releasing process, she connected to kind of the abuse and the abandonment of her ex, but then also the connection to having to shift from business to business. We cleaned up that subconscious messaging, but then we put that subconscious messaging in her next launch. And now she's attracting way more people. And she is connecting to other women, single moms that also want to step into that leadership. Okay. So how do we do that? And now she's taking that and putting it in her messaging in order to coach her clients. So we have story, beliefs, rules, and rules. Okay. So the stories are the stories are the complaints and excuses of why you don't have what you want. Okay. Why did those low peak moments happen? The complaints and excuses. And that's the story you're creating. So I work with a lot of people with sales. Okay. So I want you to master one-on-one sales, but then I also want you to master group sales, because that's where it becomes more fun is that you can sell to more people and have that time and money freedom. And so a lot of people are like, oh, they have a story around sales. Like, I don't want to be that slimy car salesman, or I don't want to talk about my products. People will think I'm being too salesy, right? Then you have the beliefs, which are your negative thoughts and emotions. Okay. So it's like, I don't like sales. I can't do sales. Or I love this one. I'm going to call it enrollment. I'm going to just get rid of the word sales and call it enrollment, but then they're still scared to death of it. So it didn't really change much. Then they have the beliefs, which are the negative thoughts and emotions because of that, the complaints and excuses. Okay. You can start seeing like a landing page here, right? It's like, what if we started with our clients' complaints and excuses? We got down to their thoughts and emotions. Then the rules are the expectations. Okay, these are the shoulds or have tos. My business should be making this much money. I have to do this in order to pay the bills. Or it's the expectations that they aren't meeting in their own life, but they believe that those expectations are keeping them safe And those are, if people don't meet my expectations or you ask me to step out of those expectations, God forbid, right? And so these oftentimes, if we don't get to other people's expectations, it scares them away. Or if we don't shift these rules that they have in their life, then they have a rule for how much money they spend. They have a rule for how much time they spend. They have a rule for this, that, and the other thing. Okay. So we want to get to expectations. And the last thing is the roles. Okay. So this is their identity. So oftentimes, because they had something negative happen in their life, the low peak moments, or you have a suppressed need. Sorry, you have a need not met. And because that need wasn't met in that situation, you have a suppressed identity. Okay. And this is where people are stuck in working hard, working a certain amount of hours, having to do a certain thing, be a people pleaser. It's basically whatever you had to do in order to get love from your parents or acknowledgement from the outside world. Okay. And then you create an identity that wasn't you, and then you're now creating this false identity. That's why people feel fake or imposter syndrome, is because they're putting on this mask that you actually think is authentic. But if we were to talk about your stories, release your negative thoughts and emotions, break the rules and create new ones, and then meet the need that didn't get met, and then bring up the suppressed identity, that is where we are going to create that energetic leadership of, wow, when I shift into that leader, into that movement maker, what is going to happen now? What new stories am I going to have? What new beliefs? What new roles? So you shift into that, which means you attract clients, but then also this is the subconscious messaging that I'm asking you to go from, is the complaints, excuses, negative thoughts, emotions, expectations, needs, and suppressed identity, to painting a picture of when you are healed or when you get your goal, what's your story then? What's your beliefs then? What's your rules then? What's your roles then? And we can put that into our talks, our messaging, our social media, our emails. So that is, if you go and do this for 5 low peak moments, you go and do this for 5 high peak moments, you're basically, this is your pain and this is your paradise. You're creating this pain to paradise. Then you do it for your clients. What are my clients' stories around my big problem, big solution? What are their negative thoughts and emotions? What are their expectations? What are their needs not met and their suppressed identities? And then what's their high peak moments? And you actually create a pain to paradise that is not your external stuff. Okay, so some of you aren't gay. Some of you haven't had, your mom had cancer, your dad had open heart surgery, but you can relate to not feeling safe, not having a voice, not being able to be a leader. And so that's where we now create this subconscious messaging where people may not resonate with the actual things we've gone through, but a lot of our ideal audience will connect with the thoughts and emotions, the expectations, the needs not met. And then what happens is you show them transformation from their pain, which is your pain in the past, and then their paradise, which is what you have now. And you show them that you're the leader across their void. Because remember, they're not buying information. They're not even buying products and services. They're buying transformation now. I was working with a roofing company the other day, and she's like, this isn't going to work for me. And I said, oh, girlfriend, let's try it. Okay, so I started coaching her, and I asked her, okay, so how do you do it? And basically, it's textbook. It's like, here's the benefits and features of a roof. This is why our warranty, our guarantee, our money back, our company will fix it, all the things, benefits and features all day long. Best benefits and features I've ever had. Okay, but why were people not pulling out their credit card? It's like they had other options. They didn't see why this was any different. Oh wait, have you heard those in your business, right? So I started asking her questions about, why do you love roofing? What's important to you about it? If somebody doesn't have a good roof, how's that a problem? So I did all those. And I started having her connect to her clients, and she said, wow, people that spend a lot of money on a roof, they have this satisfaction. It's like, I did this, I paid for this. Another person, it was like, this is family, this house has been in my family for generations, and to keep it preserved and have this type of roof. Another person was like, nobody in my family has ever owned a home, this is my first time owning a home. So she started having this emotional connection, saying the roof is part of the foundation. And if you have a solid roof, and what does that mean to you? What does that represent? The next day, she went back to somebody that said no, and she got a $25,000 sale just by implementing this in her thing. Okay, so this isn't just for coaches. This is also for, and you can see how this is perfect for coaching, right? Okay, so this is what we want you to be able to put on your again, on your landing page and on your talks and all of those things. Okay. Beautiful. Giving you a lot. How you doing? It's pretty cool to think about the messaging in a completely different way. Okay. And so the subconscious messaging is that first part of it factor. The second day is looking at how do you implement this into all of your systems. Okay. So that systems part is really important. Okay. So we have to have marketing systems. Okay. It was so funny. I talked to this woman. She made multiple six figures, and she wanted to scale to seven. And she was like, I have my systems and processes, and I was coaching her around this stuff. And she's like, I don't see how my last job connects to this at all. Like, why do I need to talk about any pain in my life? And how would I even implement this into my marketing? And so I started asking questions. It took me like 30 minutes to say an emotion. And we got down to the emotional connection, and she was in this nonprofit. She's like, nobody cares that I did a nonprofit. That was just like, I mean, I wasn't doing anything with it. I was like, well, why'd you love being in the nonprofit? She's like, well, I really loved the people and their heart connection and why they did what they did. And then I said, what benefits did you bring? Oh my God, I helped them systematize the entire thing so that they could finally scale the nonprofit and make a lot of impact. And I made a ton of money, multiple six figures with that job. And then COVID hit. A lot of COVID stories today. I didn't even notice that. That's so funny. And she was like, then it all went away. But the thing is, I was relieved because I was spending a lot of time, and it was hard to build that. And I didn't want to do another business that would do the same thing. So that's why she then fell in love with helping people write their story out and use books to scale to seven figures. And so she created a system that actually works to help people know their story. She gets to connect people's hearts. Then she helps them put into a system, a book system, and a funnel that scales them. And then she helps them create a descension model to have a high ticket model and sell them. And she was just kind of selling this is a 30-day challenge for a book, but she didn't recognize that when she started putting this story piece in it, that people then got excited to go from somebody that wanted to revamp their life, somebody that wanted to have time and money, from an excitement back. And a lot of people were actually exactly where she was, where they've built a lot of success, but they don't want to do it in a lot of time. And this is where we found this emotional big problem, big solution. And then we put it, and now we're putting it in her 5-day masterclass, her 3-day sales event, and on her landing pages and different things like that. Okay. So the 3 funnels that we focus on at It Factor is 1, you have a lead magnet funnel. Okay, we're going to talk all about leads and how to put the subconscious messaging in there. Then you have your webinar funnel. Okay, and so, and then last is your speaker funnel. Okay, and so what goes into this? Okay, so what goes into this is really, we deserve to be really good at one-on-one sales, because can you imagine doing the one-on-one sales with the subconscious messaging, and then the one-on-one sales, you get the wording and bring it through all of these. Okay, so then you now have talks and webinars that overcome all the objections and that speak to your ideal client in any of these funnel systems. Okay. Now, imagine you're doing LinkedIn, you're doing social media, you're doing emails for all of this, different things like that. Okay. We have webinars and talks. We have 3-day events. And then we put the messaging in retreats, group coaching. We put messaging in trainings. Maybe you have certifications, okay? Or maybe you do mentorship. Okay? Mentorship or mastermind. These are all different things where your subconscious messaging matters. And instead of just knowing how to do like one thing, how about we know how to bring all of your messaging through all of these funnels, and then knowing that you can scale not just to 6 figures, but multiple 6 and 7 figures when your messaging is right. Okay. Because I want you to stop one thinking that you have to hire a marketing person. I want you to lead the marketing person the next time you hire them. And then it's not just about numbers. What if you could actually get in front of less people but sell more because of your messaging is so on freaking point? Okay. So that is the marketing system that I want you to achieve and have. Okay. And so we talk about like just for your webinar, you have a landing page, right? And then you have an email sequence, and then you have your webinar, and then you have your upsell email sequence, you have your nurturing email sequence, and then you have your upsell from there. And imagining all of that subconscious messaging being super cohesive. Okay, that's what we want. Okay, all right. So now, so any thoughts or questions? So what are you hearing differently in terms of this messaging process? What are you hearing differently? What are you already taking away differently than you've heard before? I love it. Thank you, Olivia. What's sticking out to you that's different in terms of this than other kind of the messaging and things like that? Okay. A lot of people are really, I want you to know that one, it starts with you shifting your identity, but then you can shift others' identities. Speaking to the symptoms and the messaging more than the solutions, absolutely. Really connecting all of this and knowing that like you're one breakthrough away from your next scaling, whatever you want to scale to. Okay, you're one breakthrough away, and this helps you have that breakthrough and then implement it in your business. So let's talk about the secrets to 7-figure messaging. Okay, so number one is the big problem and big solution. Okay, and having the formula to step onto a stage, put it in your emails, and know how to incorporate your big problem, big solution so that more people pique their interest, say yes to wanting to know more information from you. Okay. So then after that, we have the pain vehicle paradise. Okay. And so this is where your pain, you kind of bullet point out the events of your low peak moments. Okay. And then, so this is the low peak moments. And then you have your subconscious messaging. And then you're staying the complaints, the excuses, the negative thoughts and emotions, the rules and the roles. And then you have your vehicle, which is your process. Okay. So I have the it factor. And when you implement the it factor, which is subconscious messaging, the energy leadership, and the secrets to 7 figures, you're able to go from this subconscious messaging, okay, feeling like you can't be a leader, feeling like you're the best kept secret, feeling like it's like, I know I have things that are going to help people, but consistently feeling like I'm not getting in front of enough people and making the conversions I want. Okay. So then you have the it factor process. And then the paradise is now it's the events and it's your high peak. And then it's your subconscious messaging. Okay. I want you to be able to have a strong big problem solution, a strong like 30-second to 1 minute pain to paradise. Okay. And then this is where you are going to transform how you speak and do messaging is the number 3. Okay. It's in your 3 teaching points. Okay. So it's in your 3 teaching points. Now let's dissect the 5 parts of a teaching point. Okay, so number 1, I'll put A, you gotta teach them something. Okay, so this is a tangible takeaway. Okay, so a teaching point is a tangible takeaway that they can leave with. Okay, so most of us know that already. Okay, so then we have stories, which we have our personal story, we have our testimonial, and we have a metaphor. Okay, so do we have personal stories that represent the teaching? Do we have testimonials that represent the teaching? Do we have metaphors that exemplifies the teaching? Okay, then what we're going to do, again, putting the subconscious messaging in all of this, you have the teaching, the stories, then you have the seeding. This is where you seed parts of your program. Okay, and everyone can get better at this because you deserve to talk about your products more. You deserve to talk about it in an easy way that flows. And so what seeding is in your talk, in your messaging, you seed your program and what you can do for them before you even get to the offer. So the goal is that they know your offer before you even offer it at the end. They're making the decision, is this right for me? Will this work? Do I trust this? And can I do it? Okay. They're making that decision while you're speaking, and the offer is, am I going to pull out my credit card or not? That's the decision that they're making. Okay. And I want to help you create the subconscious messaging and the energetic leadership that then you have this incredible, I call it like the art and science of messaging. Right? Because that's where you can become that leader. And if you really, I look at lots of people's messaging in terms of 5-figure messaging, 6-figure messaging, 7-figure messaging, is the 7-figure people, they put this all together. Like 6 figure is like, okay, let me teach. Let me do the story. Let me do the seeding. Okay, the next one is objection overcoming. Now, are you handling objections? So in each teaching point, you want to make sure that you are overcoming an objection to buying. So maybe that is not enough time, not enough money. A lot of the ones that I'm getting right now, I'm in a whole bunch of different programs, things like that. Okay. I've spent a lot of money on this. This sounds like something else that I've done. So in your teaching point, how do you overcome an objection with your teaching point? How do you overcome an objection with a personal story or testimonial? How do you, in a testimonial, seed a part of your program? How do you tell a personal story that overcomes objections, seeds, and teaches us something in one story? So that's the art and science of how 7-figure people, that's how they attract their ideal clients, and their ideal clients say yes to them, is because it's in one story, they're doing all of these. In one teaching point, they're doing all of these. And you get a bigger impact in that say yes. And the last one, A, B, C, D, E, is the zingers. Okay, so I love helping everybody get zingers. And so zingers is those memorable things that when you say it, it can either be a gut punch, so it's that mindset shift, or it's something that they remember. So I've been seeing a lot movement maker because I love that word and I want people to be movement makers. Okay. Make your movement a message. There's different things that I've said throughout this thing. If I've said, go ahead and write it down. There's zingers that I put in. One, it's because it's memorable. And two, because people, when they think of that saying, they'll think of me and you keep top of mind. Okay. So all of this, you're going to put in your 3 teaching points. Now, I have some extra special secret sauce. Okay. So now in your, what are your 3 teaching points? Okay. We're going to look at one, one of your teaching points should solve an internal problem. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to sell somebody on transformation. So an internal problem helps create transformation. So when you write a talk with me, it's like, how can you show that identity shift transformation from like the rookie to the Hall of Famer, right? What's the internal shift that needs to happen? Okay. Then number 2 is external problem. You need to show them that that you can solve their external problem with your vehicle. Okay. And so that equals making your stuff tangible. How can you make your things tangible so that people can get a tangible aspect? And the last is process. You have to prove to people that your process is repeatable. Oh, I didn't realize that those were T's. I should come up with a T for that one. No, I'm just joking. So you have the internal process of transformation, the external is tangible, and the process is repeatable. So now you can see how this is an art. Okay. If you go through and you have the subconscious messaging in your big problem, big solution, you have the pain vehicle paradise process, you have your 3 teaching points that solves internal, external process. In each teaching point, you have all of these. Okay. You're going to be able to create a talk, curriculum, landing pages, and emails that are going to call out your ideal client, and you're going to create a movement. Okay. Now, guess what? When you do all of this, and we have a workbook that like teaches you and takes through everything through, imagine putting this into ChatGPT and training your AI with all of this. So many people are like, oh, I love AI, and Ingrid knows this, is that it's not just as easy to hop on ChatGPT and type in stuff. You have to use and train it. And so we're actually going to talk about how to train all of this. We're going to also talk about JV partnerships and affiliates. Is when you have all of this in your systems, you became very desirable as a JV partnership, and you have the swipe copy, you have the emails, you have all the different things that include all of this. Okay. So this is the IT factor method. It's that subconscious messaging one where you, the bottleneck in your own business, releasing your own, shifting your own identity so that you can then take that subconscious messaging and putting it in all of your marketing funnels. Okay. And that's what I call like energetic leadership. Are you putting the energy leadership and showing people that you're the leader across their void through all of your systems, and then being able to automate it and get your time, money back, and all of that stuff? And then the last piece is the secrets to 7-figure messaging, whether you want to put this into social media, talks, webinars, all of that different stuff. How do we do that? Okay, beautiful. So it's interesting because I want people to implement this in their life. And I actually worked with this guy that he was a photographer, and he started thinking like, I want to be a coach, and I have a successful 6-figure photography business, but how do I do that in coaching? And so when we started doing this process, we were first like, again, focused on his business aspect. And after a couple months, it's so funny how people are like, I need my how-tos. And they call it like stuck in a how hole. I don't want you to be stuck in a how hole anymore. You're going from one how to the next and it's not working, right? And I want you to get out of the how hole and step into leadership, because what this person realized is they were afraid to step out from behind the camera. And I asked them, why do you love taking pictures so much? And I'm like, it captures this moment where there's so much love and authenticity and connection with people. And I said, well, how can you put that into your coaching business? And they were like, I never even thought about that before. And we started recognizing that they shut down their spirituality and spiritual connection because they had dreams and nightmares when they were younger, and their family was like, "Don't talk about that stuff. That stuff's not real. It's just a dream." And so he started actually having this like insomnia, and he thought that he was bringing people to hell by coaching them because he had spiritual trauma and he had been kicked out of the church. Okay. So you can see that this layers of stuff of, oh, but I've healed this before. And after he started integrating this, he stopped doing all the right things and he implemented this process. And he had made about $75,000 just in a couple months, paid off all these other programs. He'd spent like $10,000 on coaching, $7,500 on a TEDx talk, $3,500 on business social media stuff, $2,500 on energy work. And it was all adding up. But when he shifted from having to do it the right way to this transformational piece, that is when he started transforming his life. He recreated a better life with his parents, with his brother. And he started scaling his business. And this is what I want for you. Okay. So what is that goal for you that when you scale your business, and when you are authentic in that it factor messaging, that it's going to make all the difference for you. Okay. So I've given you the process. I've given you all of that. What I would like to do is actually talk you through the 3-day event. So it is an it factor event. So can I do that for you? Would that be good if I go through and kind of talk you through? So some of you are like, I'm going to take this and run with it. And others of you are like, I would like to be handheld and take each of this piece in the 3-day event. Okay. So I am going to put the link in the chat, and then I'll bring up the webinar, or bring up the slides to just talk through it. Okay. So there's the link in the chat, and then we'll bring up the slides just so you know what you get. Okay. So we have the it factor. All right, so we have the it factor. So what if this is the year your message becomes a movement, okay? So what the it factor process is it's turning your expertise into a scalable, authentic message beyond 7 figures. You're gonna discover the it factor method, okay? And this includes the subconscious messaging, creating those 3 marketing funnels, and monetizing with your energetic leadership. Okay, so on day 1, we're going to work on all of the subconscious messaging. So uncovering and stepping into your magnetic presence and messaging. Okay, really looking at that subconscious messaging piece, then learning how to incorporate the subconscious messaging into your marketing. So like I said, you're going to have your big problem, big solution. You're going to have your pain to paradise done on day 1. So you're going to define your subconscious blocks, and then you're going to learn to attract your ideal clients with those subconscious blocks. So you move from just kind of appealing to people's thinking mind and then appealing to their transformation. Okay. Then we are going to go into marketing. So you're going to learn how to incorporate your charisma, confidence, influence into your marketing. Those different funnels, how do you put it in there? Learn to scale with incorporating your subconscious message into 3 funnels, and then release your subconscious blocks and turn your presence into profit. So on day 2, we're actually going to do live coaching where we actually write your messaging, and then we're also going to do a release, okay? A subconscious and somatic release so that you can step into your leadership. Okay, so I've given lots of examples of how do you kind of get out of your own way, and you've got to this point with your transformation. What's the next transformation that you deserve to get by seeing how you're the bottleneck in your business? Okay, so that's the marketing, the day 2. And the last day is the monetizing. So learning the 5 secrets to 7-figure messaging, which we're going to do here. So like I said, day 1 and 2, we're going to figure out your big problem, big solution, and then your pain vehicle paradise. Day 3, you're actually going to leave with one of your 3 points all written. Okay, so we're going to do it together. It's a workshop, and you're going to leave with one of your 3 points all written. So you'll have 1, 2, and 3, one of your points. You'll have all of this by the time that you leave. So turn your subconscious messaging into a foundation of your signature talk and all of your marketing content. Okay. So the it factor is the messaging, marketing, and monetizing. So make your message a movement guide. So even if you can't make it, we are going to give you this workbook that actually talks you through each of these pieces so that you can go through on the recordings, and or we'd love to have you live, show up and do this with you in the workbook. There's going to be coaching, there's going to be practicing, and it's not just going to be talking at you. You're actually going to teach something, you're going to then do it, and then you're going to practice with somebody. Okay. So then activate your it factor breath work. So we're going to do the breath work, the subconscious and somatic releasing. We're doing a couple of those. And then we're going to have networking, live coaching, and practice sessions. Okay. So the value is $997 and the investment for the 3 days is $97 today. Okay. And so there's some different things that you're getting is that make your message movement guide, that breath work, and the networking, live coaching, and practice. So it is May 8th to 9th. Okay. And it is going to be about 12 to 6 mountain time on day 1. It's going to be like 11 to 8 on day 2 because we're going to do the coaching. And then it's going to be 11 to 6 on day 3. And that's all in mountain time. Okay. If you can't make it all, it's okay. You're going to have a workbook, you're going to have the recordings, and you're going to have a coach that can take you through and support you with it. And we would love to support you in the pieces that you can show up to and that you want to show up to. Okay. So this is going to be amazing. Now, some of you are like, I want to implement this and I want to take this a step farther. So we do have a VIP ticket. And so the VIP ticket is $397. This is where we're going to do, you actually get a 3-hour one-on-one coaching to the sale training. So if you need to work on your one-on-one sales, how do you do all of this in one-on-one sales? Because the 3-day is about group sales. Okay, so I want you to master your one-on-one sales and your group sales. Then we have a 30-day Powerfully You breathwork challenge. So breathwork is one way that I've amazingly used to get out of my own way as a leader. And so 30 days, I've created a course. It's freaking amazing. Also, we're going to have the conversion code workshop, how to handle any objections in one-on-one group sales. So again, I want you to overcome people's objections to buying, because when you overcome that, then people are going to spend money with you faster, and they're also going to be willing to spend more money with you. Okay. Michael is throwing in the podcast guest and advanced training. So we've created this 3 days together. We've created and looked at how can we help people scale the most. And one way that Michael does that is when you are an excellent podcast guest, you actually get ideal leads that actually buy after the podcasting. And so he has a whole training on that. And the value of that is $497. That's what he actually sells it for. I mean, and then we have additional small group coaching just for the VIP. Okay. So I will help you coach you through and do the messaging kind of like I did with Ingrid, but we'll do your entire process. Okay. So the investment of that is $397. Okay. So that is the It Factor process. I'd love to see you there and support you in transforming your business and scaling by going from that kind of really thinking about what people need to have versus that transformational language that is going to attract your ideal clients. Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. So I'd love to now just take questions. So any questions about the event itself or about any of the content?
And we have somebody just trying to get into the room now. And if I clicked admit, but I did not see them pop up yet. But if they do, I was just going to say for anybody, for them or anybody else who came in late, we will be posting this replay to our YouTube channel. So we hope that you'll check it out on our YouTube channel and subscribe while you're there, please. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel as a replay, the link will be in the text below. So please join us for the It Factor Live. It's going to be a total blast. I'm excited and here's the truth of it as well. Carson, as you were talking about that, I'm like, I want to learn, because I learn from these webinars that we do. Each time I pick up a few more tidbits from you, and I'm like, okay, now I want to learn from you. Even though we're doing the event together, while you're presenting, I'm going to be learning. I'm going to be like a student, and then I'll present, and I'll be back to a student. And so it's I'm excited about it because there's so much I'm learning from you.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna transform marketing. We're gonna transform the personal development industry when we're putting these tactics in. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, and one of the things that I teach is that business really is only comprised of three simple elements. And if people could simplify stuff more, I think they'd be better off. And the three elements of business are lead generation, sales, and fulfillment. And I got to kind of trust that people who are getting into this, they have a gift, a skill, the thing that they're delivering, that they're offering and putting out in the world. And that's why they got into it. They want to give their gift back, but they don't have the first two pieces. They don't have sales and they don't have lead generation.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's also exciting for me to work with you on this because lead generation is what we do. It's one of my areas that I've focused on really well. And I'm still learning more on the selling side because, well, I've launched new businesses, I've rebranded stuff, and sometimes the messaging, you got to shift it up until you get it dialed in and figure out everything that's going on. And when you really get to the lower levels of it all, it's a game changer. And so I just wanted to toss that out there as well while we're waiting to see if any hands come up for questions.
Yeah. So some of the common questions that I get is, like I said, if I can't make it, so we're gonna have the workbook, you're gonna get the breath work, you're gonna get all of that stuff. Other people is like, is messaging really the thing I need to be focusing on? And so this is about your messaging, but it's also about how do you have the systems to scale. And so we want to show you the systems in order to scale your business. Okay. And then the other thing is like, oh, this is just me and Michael. Okay, so this isn't like a 3-day where there's a whole bunch of speakers and they're all going to be asking you to have to buy into their stuff or to whatever. This is literally a workshop of just me and Michael, and you're going to leave with your big problem, your big solution to paint a paradise, and a teaching point, plus the coaching and the releasing. Okay, so I do like to say that. The
Yeah.
other thing is, it's so funny because people are like, oh, I've taken this speaking program, this messaging program, this marketing program, and all this different stuff. And so have I. I've spent over hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what I've realized is that they all teach these two things. You can find any coach that's like, how do you talk about what you love and how do you tell stories? Okay. And what I've realized is I've taken a $75,000 speaking program, a $50,000 speaking program, a $25,000 speaking program. Some teach this, but very rarely do people actually teach this because they do it so unconsciously because they've been in business 15 to 20 years where they do this and they actually don't teach how to do this in your messaging. They just assume that you either are doing it or they don't even know that they're doing it. And so we're going to spend a lot of time on the seeding and objection overcoming, integrating it into this so that you truly stand out in your industry. So I did want to say that last piece of like, this is where it's at. It's so fun, and that's the art and the science. I want to show you that if I can shift your messaging just a little bit, I know you can get an extra couple clients versus hundreds of clients just by shifting people's messaging,
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't see any hands going up. We will then wrap this up here. And like I said, we'll put it up to the YouTube channel. You'll be getting an email with the link to that in case you want to watch any of it or just to review it simply as well, to go back over the notes of it. But my recommendation, of course, is join us at the It Factor, which leads me to actually, I just remembering one other question that came via email. And you just addressed it a little bit about if someone can't make all of the event. The question that I have, and I love to address it for this person, she already bought her ticket, but she's concerned that on May 8th, she won't be able to be in the room. And I guess she obviously still wants to be there in person for the rest, but you know how sometimes if they miss the first day, it kind of throws off the pace for the rest. How do you feel like it'll be? And maybe she won't miss all of the first day, but probably part of it.
yeah, so what I'm going to do is Michael and I are going to send out a series of videos ahead of time for you to actually get started on the process. And so those videos actually encompass what we're doing on day one. So you're actually already going to have that piece. Number two, there is going to be a coach. So you can absolutely hop on with your coach and do the day one even before we do it or that night or the morning of. And then the third thing is if that is the case, sign up, and we can also have you do the next one. So if you sign up now and you want to come back to the first day on the next one, no additional charge. We'll let you do that, of course. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. I will let her know that. And it's one of the things that is great about, I mean, and a challenge in 3-day events is it's a lot to cover. You want to get it all dialed in. And sometimes people feel like they can't do any of it because if they feel like they're going to miss part of it. As Carson said, there is a way around that. And we're going to be making the video available to everybody. So you'll be able to watch it in replay as well. But there's nothing like being here with us live. So that we hope that you'll join us. That is May 8th, 9th, and 10th. And it's going to be exciting. Grab your tickets at the link you find in the chat or just check it out in the replay. We'll have the link there as well. Carson, thank you for sharing this with our followers here and people who are really ready to step up their game and get their movement going. So I really appreciate you, and I look forward to doing a wonderful event with you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You
Bye,
got it.
everybody.
Ciao, everybody.